immortal Henrietta Lacks, Gila, grew up as a poor tobacco farmer whose cells were taken without her knowledge in 1951. This led to her involuntarily being directly responsible for many of the most important turning points in medical history. Henrietta Lacks has made contributions to science more than any other woman in history. The great-granddaughter of slaves, Henrietta was born in Roanoke, Virginia in 1920 to poor tobacco farmers. Henrietta moved with her husband to Baltimore, Maryland. This was soon after the beginning of World War II, and many African Americans came north for work. She knew that she was heading into a more modern world, but unfortunately, what she did not know was that less than 8 years later, her cells would give rise through breakthrough research in medicine. In January of 1951, after giving her birth to her fifth child, she was diagnosed with cervical cancer at Johns Hopkins. This was the only nearby hospital that treated Black patients. During her treatment, Howard Jones, a Johns Hopkins physician, found a smooth eggplant-colored tumor on Henrietta's cervix. Johns carefully cut a section of her quarter-sized tumor and sent it to the lab for a diagnosis. The tumor was malignant. Henrietta returned to Johns Hopkins 8 days later. A young resident took one more sample. This one went to George Guy, head of tissue culture research at Johns Hopkins Hospital. He has been searching for human cells that would live indefinitely outside the body in order to do his cancer research. After 2 decades of failure in his laboratory attempts, George Guy finally got his hands on Henrietta Lacks' cells, and since then, everything changed for medical history. Unlike any cells that have ever been seen before, Dr. Guy and his colleagues found that Henrietta's cells were immortal. They never stopped dividing. Her cells doubled in every size every 24 hours. Dr. Guy called these cells Gila after Henrietta Lacks and shared these cells for free with any research that wanted them. Not long after Henrietta's cells took over her body, as they had taken over the test tubes, she had died on October 4, 1951. She would never know her impact on modern science. On the same day she died, George Guy appeared on national television with a vial of herself.
Show you some actual pictures of colonies in a test tube of cancer cells such as those I just showed you. It is quite possible that from fundamental studies such as these, that we will be able to learn a way by which cancer can be completely wiped out.
Dr. Guy introduced the nation to his hope for curing cancer, while Henrietta's family knew nothing about her revolutionary cells. A Rolling Stone journalist contacted them and revealed that Lacks' cells had been duplicated and then used for research by countless scientists. The article called the work a critical tool in medical research. In thousands of laboratories around the world, at this very moment, scientists are growing and using a very special set of cells to conduct research. This research ranges from the development of chemotherapy drugs to the study of viruses such as HIV. Because of these cells, we have been able to map genes, clone entire organisms, and create vaccines. These cells are called HeLa cells, and their story is extraordinary. The first major breakthrough achieved because of HeLa cells was the invention of polio vaccine in 1952. They were used to accurately calculate the number of chromosomes in a human cell, making it possible for doctors to diagnose chromosome disorders such as Down syndrome. HeLa was a workhorse. It was inexpensive and everywhere. Guy shared HeLa cells with other researchers simply for the benefit of science, not for financial compensation. It started with just a few HeLa cells in a single lab, which led to giant factories that were mass-producing polio vaccines. The cells from this one tumor became a foundation of modern science. This led to breakthroughs and many medical discoveries.
Henrietta Lacks was 31 years old. She was diagnosed with cervical cancer in 1951. She got admitted in Johns Hopkins Hospital. Unfortunately, she died after 1 year.
The HeLa cell line was brought into space prior to any astronaut, and then were included on the first manned mission. Despite the ethical debate around the harvesting of Lacks' cells, scientists have continued to use the immortal HeLa cell line all over the world. Research involving polio vaccines, chemotherapy, HIV/AIDS, cloning, and IVF have all benefited from the HeLa cell line. Henrietta has made contributions to science more than any other person in our history. Our responsibility is to honor her legacy. It was the greatest discovery in biomedical research in the last half of the 20th century. It has led to numerous discoveries and development of technologies. It provided the ability for us how to understand how cells grow, how cells divide, whether cells can survive in extreme climates, how radiation damages cells, how we can produce lots of materials to make things such as vaccines, which is all part of what the HeLa cell line has done for science and for the public. But the use of HeLa cells brought up many ethical issues. Neither Henrietta Lacks nor her family gave her doctor permission to harvest her cells. In fact, for many years, Henrietta's family knew nothing about the impact her cells had on medical science. Today, as a result of the issues brought up by HeLa cells, consent is routinely sought from taking tissue samples from patients. HeLa cells hold ongoing debate regarding the disturbing stories of medical exploitation, racial discrimination, and other moral issues behind the scene in medical industry. Despite this, the world has been fascinated by new groundbreaking discoveries, life-saving cures, and countless other triumphs of humankind because of the discoveries of Henrietta's immortal cells. However, the road to scientific advancements has become twisted, unlike the glorious pictures that we have painted. Modern science owes a great deal to Henrietta Lacks.
Hi, my name is Adrika Hawthorne. I've been a nurse for 8 years, and today we'll be speaking about Miss Henrietta Lacks. I would say Miss Henrietta Lacks is one of the most important women in medicine and science. Unfortunately, Miss Henrietta Lacks was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and during her treatment at Johns Hopkins in Maryland, her cells were retrieved and cultured in her lab and has since been coined HeLa cells. HeLa cells has given us the opportunity to make great advancement in medicine science, such as polio vaccine, chemotherapy, as well as HIV research. Unfortunately, there has been an ethical dilemma and debate in regards to how we have retrieved Miss Henrietta's cells. Henrietta nor her family had given consent to retrieve her cells and to participate in medical research. This is a direct violation of privacy and patient rights. HeLa cells has given us remarkable information in how cells function and has created the first human cell line.
Although she came from humble beginnings, she changed what we know about ourselves and who we are as humans. Acknowledging Henrietta Lacks' contributions to our world helps to rectify the tragic and unjust circumstances of the discovery of HeLa cells, the immortal cell line.